Hello, I'm going to show my phone history and all of the phones that I have had and talk a little bit about my phones. My first proper phone was the Sony Ericsson W200i from Movistar. This is the first phone that I properly had, and it is my first number. I can see my current phone number here in the back. This is the prepaid card, the SIM card that came with my phone. It's branded 2008. Expo Zaragoza 2008. I remember this phone pretty fondly because it had the Sony Ericsson Walkman kind of buttons and all this. It had this music button. It had a plain only mode that was pretty funny that let you listen to music and all this. And I remember liking it a lot because of that. And the problem was that it was infrared. But yeah, this is an infrared sensor emitter or whatever. So it can send and receive infrared, but no one in my town had infrared, basically. No one had phones with infrared. So people only had Bluetooth to share music and all that. So I was left alone in that sense. And that's my bittersweet memory with this. Another funny thing about the Walkman things was that it came with a lot of accessories, right? It came with this. It came with these speakers. And back then, I'm not sure if you guys remember, but every phone had a different connector. So these speakers had the special Sony Ericsson connector. And the phone basically in the back has like these strange pins. I thought that was funny. The next phone in my collection is this Zoho V719, which is basically a Chinese iPhone clone, mini. This is super small, as you can see. Smaller than the palm of my hand right now. And it is pretty funny. It's a Chinese clone of an iPhone. It didn't have any iOS or whatever, but compared to the W200Y, compared to this one, it was an upgrade because it had Bluetooth, it had Wi-Fi, it had Java, right? You could play Java games on this and they run well. It had this antenna for TV, but in Spain, at this point, television was already digital, right? So it didn't work. But that was kind of a big thing that Chinese phones advertised. This was bought in a website called Microcubo. It was 100 euros, like 95 euros or something like this. And I remember liking it a lot. It was super small. It's pretty light. It had 2 batteries in the box, 2 of these Li-ion or whatever, however they call it in English. And I thought it was funny. The camera, not sure if you can see it there, it's pretty trash, but it did the job and I liked it. It was a fun phone to have. And as I said, it ran Java games, which is what I wanted. But the typing experience was trash. You can see this video that I made, Zoho V719, that I will link in the description if you want to watch a review of it. It's pretty funny nowadays. It's from 2010, so you can see that the quality of the video is awful, but you can see the phone operating, and it is an interesting video. Afterwards, I will talk a little bit more about this Chinese site because it will be relevant. But for the moment, I'm going to the next phone. The next phone is this Samsung Galaxy Mini. It's a pretty iconic phone with the green border, metallic, all plastic, removable back, removable battery. But this was already a winning phone. I liked this phone a lot. It had a microSD card. It had a headphone jack, rare sight these days, I guess. And it was generally a pretty good phone. It had Android, which was, I guess, the big upgrade from when this phone came along. This one had Android, so it had already a lot of new features and you could do a lot of stuff with it compared to the phones before, right? I'm not sure if I had Instagram and kind of the social media apps with this phone already, but I did have WhatsApp. So I guess, for example, with this phone, I didn't have WhatsApp. I barely texted with anyone and I didn't call. So it kind of wasn't a phone that I used for communications, you could say. But with this one, it's when, I guess, the thing started to happen, right? It's not like I was the most popular person ever, right? I wasn't. But I guess it was when it started to be useful, having a phone. I still keep the box, by the way. It has stuff in it that it doesn't belong. And here we can see the specs. HSDPA, 7.2 megabits per second, Edge GPRS, a 3.14 inches TFT LCD, a 3 megapixels camera, touch width for Android, that was a feature apparently. It had Wi-Fi, BGN, and it is the Samsung GT S5570. pretty cool phone. I made a review of this phone as well. Well, by the way, the reviews are in Spanish, so maybe take that into account. But I did make a review of the phone in Spanish. I wanted to show this picture because it shows my old desk, and it had my Galaxy Mini. Yeah, and I wanted to show it because of this. The next phone that I had was a Samsung Galaxy Note 2. I have the box still. The problem is that I don't have the actual phone because it got stolen when I went to Rome. But yeah, this one had a quad-core GPU, 1.6 GHz, HD Super AMOLED, 5.5 inches screen. I loved this phone. 8 megapixels camera with autofocus, S Pen. It had the S Pen. I loved the S Pen, man. I haven't gotten a phone with an S Pen, but I've been thinking about it. The new flip phones are kind of changing my mind, but I don't know. I might go back to the S Pen. And I really love this phone, man. I hate that I got it stolen when I was in Rome. And I still keep some accessories like these. This is from the Chinese shop, so it was like €1 or something. But I loved this phone a lot. I have a picture of the phone itself from 2013, December. This was probably when I bought the phone and it was like doing the first day updates. This is a picture of the Grand Theft Auto 5 map taken with my Galaxy Note. This is my high school. As you can see, it wasn't the best camera, but man, it was a decent camera for the time. The next phone that I have had, I don't even have it here. The only thing I keep from it is this receipt of when it broke and I had to take it to a shop to get it repaired. Sony Xperia Z1, Sony Xperia Z1, and as you can see, it was €80, but I never actually replaced the screen, so I left it there at the shop, never went to pick it up. Not sure why. Also didn't pay the €80, but they kept the phone. So yeah, it probably has been torn apart for parts, or I don't know. I did go to get my Samsung S7, which is a spoiler for the next phone, but yeah, that is my phone. And I liked this phone. It was waterproof, also an Android phone. I think I remember dropping it playing Pokemon Go. I played Pokemon Go and I dropped it in Asturias in a trip. And then the next phone, the S7, I also dropped it playing Pokemon Go like 3 days after I bought it. That's why I had the two phones to repair. This is a picture, for example, of my high school. And this was taken with the Sony Xperia Z1. It's this C6903. And it took decent pictures. I think you can tell the upgrade from the Galaxy Note. Also, I guess it was a better setting, a more beautiful one. But you can definitely tell the upgrade from the Note. And it was a good phone. It served me well. It was waterproof, as I said. I liked it a lot. I'm shame that I don't have something to represent it. But later on, you will see that I do have a small homage to it. This is the next phone I had, the Samsung Galaxy S7. I think you could tell by the spoiler that I did. This is its current form. It's inside its case and it's super strangely damaged. I wanted to check out why. That's why I'm wearing the gloves and that's why I'm making this video, to remember my phones. And yeah, this was after the screen cracked for the second time. The first time it cracked a few days after, and then I repaired the screen on my own. Like when it broke down after years of use, before, like in 2018, buying my new phone. And yeah, this was a good phone. Samsung cameras are decent, so I think the pictures that this one took were pretty okay. And even after my phone died, after I stopped using this one and started using the OnePlus, I still used it to take some pictures inside and all this. I replaced it because the battery started basically not having any battery. It was the dual SIM phone, Samsung Galaxy S7 Duos, bought from a website from like that imported phones from Saudi Arabia or whatever, but it was based in Hong Kong. Strange deal. But it was relatively cheap because of that, so it was a good phone. This is a picture that I took with my Galaxy S7. Well, I didn't take it, obviously, this is me. And this is my college. And I got it taken with my phone. This is the SM, well, as you can see, it now tells you where it was taken. And it is the SM G930F. And now we move to the current phone, which is my OnePlus 6. Not sure if you can see the 6. The speed you need. OnePlus 6. I still keep the box. And obviously, I still keep the phone. It's the phone I use. I want to replace it soon because it doesn't have any battery. I use this Spigen case, obviously. It's plugged in, obviously. Use a lot of the time. It works. And I have a screen protector. It has gone through like 4 or 5 screen protectors because it has 5-6 years almost. Yeah. Micro USB-C, sorry. The Samsung was micro USB. 2 cameras now. It has the sensor, the thumb sensor or whatever here in the back. It's a bit scrapped up on this edge. It's a bit scratched up there, but it's a good phone. It has lasted me for a while, except for the battery, it's still rolling. So yeah, I like it. I have taken it in so many adventures, you could say. It has accompanied me through my Germany stay, then through my COVID years. It's been through a lot. It's been dropped a lot of times. It's still lasting. So yeah, I have a lot of love for this phone and a lot of respect. And yeah, it's still what I use. So it works fine, except for the battery. This is a picture of an example picture that I took with my phone. Polizei BMW in Munich, back when I was living there. OnePlus A6000, you cannot see this thing, but you can believe me. And this is another one, more recent one, 2022, back in Munich, in party mode, I guess, already with long hair. And yeah, OnePlus A600, well, A6000. The next phones that I want to mention were that kind of thing that I was teaching before, which is the phones that I wanted, but that I couldn't get. And now I'm telling the story, right? So back in the Zoho days, in these Chinese clone phone days, there was kind of iPhone was starting, right? So there was kind of this battle of iPhone versus Android. And I kind of was on the side of Android, more or less. But I got a clone iPhone, but I liked Androids more. I liked the HTC Dream a lot because it had this kind of swipe keyboard. I thought it was really cool. So the Chinese phone that was my mega dream phone, right? Then this Chinese phone had competitors, right? Bigger Chinese iPhone clones, and there were also Android clones, right? There were phones that didn't even have an Android system, and this one was one of these, right? The SciPhone Dream G2. And this phone, you can see in the box that it has Android logos. It has kind of Google branding, right? And it says Android here in the back. It's green like an Android. SciPhone was this brand that made clones of iPhones. This is the phone. This was the actual phone that I wanted, but that I couldn't get. And it was so funny because it had these chargers that are Android logos, but the phone does not even run Android. This was before that, right? It only had kind of Google services or some kind of thing like that, right? Basically, it had a Google installed, and they said powered by Google or some shit like that. It was so funny, and I wanted this phone instead of this one, but yeah, and you can see, I guess, the difference in size. The screen is a little bit bigger. Both are equally trash, probably. But I wanted this one. Both costed around the same. But I never actually got to have this one and got this one instead. This was a story of a phone I wanted to tell. This kind of ties between the Chinese phone and the Android phone that I got after, right? It would sit kind of like this. I think it's an interesting story. Then, going back again, I have this phone, which is my mom's phone, and this is actually my first phone memory. So my first phone memory was with this phone, playing Space Impact, the game Space Impact in this phone in the hospital for some reason. This phone also features in my channel, playing the Tetris theme. And I keep the information of the carrier and the original phone number that my mom had in this phone. This is a carrier that no longer exists. It merged with Orange Telecom. It was bought by Orange Telecom, I guess. And yeah, it is this Amena branded phone from this era. This was my first phone memory. Then my next phone memory was a phone that was not mine, but I got to use, which was my dad's Siemens phone. He had one of these, a similar looking slab, something like this, right? A classic phone, dumb phone that was a Siemens brand, the Siemens brand, and I don't remember model, anything like that. I remember, I don't know what I used it for. I remember it had WAP, but it had this kind of slow as internet, and you could kind of browse the web in a sense. Maybe buy things, like buy stones for your phone, that kind of thing. It was interesting. Then the next phone I wanted to talk about was, I guess, a bridge between some of these phones that I mentioned, right? It was something aspirational for me. I really liked the HTC Dream because it had a swipe-up keyboard, and I bought this phone kind of commemorating some of these things, right? I had an Xperia phone, the Xperia Z1, and this was one of the phones that kind of inspired me to get a phone from the Xperia lineup. It had this compact layout, it had the slide-out keyboard, the satisfying action, Android, and it was a clever skin of Android. I liked this phone a lot, and I bought it because it was one of my dream phones from back in the day. And it ties into my Xperia, it ties into these first phones. Hope you enjoyed this video. I think I have more footage, and I even left out a couple of phones that I didn't have. For example, I have Japanese phones that I never actually used, but that I have, or fidget spinner phones that I never actually really used either. And I also have a little bit of a script with some phones that my friends used to have that are part of their phone history and thus of my phone history, and also some other phones from family members and from other friends that come to mind right now. So if you found this video interesting and would like maybe more chronologically ordered approach with my buying decisions, maybe something like that, a bit more in depth, feel free to leave a comment asking for that or requesting that. And if you reached this far, maybe you are interested in this topic of phones, so I would encourage you to do your own video telling your own story of phones. Because as you can see, this is not a video that will draw anyone. But if you reached this place, maybe it is because you are interested in the topic and in the personal stories that tie everyone to phones, right? So yeah, feel free to... Actually, I recommend a channel. I'm going to recommend Captain Two Phones, aka Mr. Mobile's channel. And yeah, you can watch a video of his. He talks a little about his phone history and all this. And he also has documented some things. So yeah, I recommend his channel. Goodbye.